van, and I've had a couple requests about how to put on the leather bottom on these lighter covers I've been doing. I'm going to show you the way I do it. It's real simple, and I have an excellent opportunity here because I've got a lighter I've had for a while now that I've been using, and the leather on the bottom is falling apart on it. So I'm going to replace it, and that should give you an opportunity to see real close. Just to let you know, this stitch is called a whip stitch. It's super simple, does the job. Let's just have a look. Alright, so here's the lighter we have, and you can see here's the leather bottom on it, and it has really gotten beaten up. I don't know if it was the specific choice of leather that I picked or what, but I think it got wet, or I'm not sure what happened to it to make it stretch out like this, but also it's just been wearing and wearing and wearing. You can see a wear line on it, and eventually it started wearing through. The beads have held up really well. They've been doing just fine, but the bottom did not. The other thing you can see as it's stretched, that the beads have come way up over where I'd like them to be. On a lighter like this, I'd really like the beads to be, you know, no farther than the very start of the plastic of the lighter. So let's go ahead and fix it. Well, the first thing we got to do is cut this off. Now, trying to get in with scissors on this guy to cut this bottom part off ain't so hot. So I would use a very sharp knife. I'm going to use this guy right here. That'll get the job done. And all you got to do is nick one. Okay, so I took my knife in there and just cut through these threads, and you can see it's starting to peel off. Pretty straightforward. And you should be left with two strings sticking out, right? The part that came out of your work and the part that went back into your work, and they're both right there. One thing you want to be sure of is try and get out of the bottom threads here. So if you can, pull it back out through your work, but you know, you're tied off to other strings down in here, so you really don't want to mess with that too much. But I'm going to try and get them out just a little bit out of the edge, work with it a little bit using a needle. I've got that one out down to this bead right here. I could go farther if I wanted to, maybe one more. What you don't want to do is damage your weave that's holding the beads in place with each other, just the one that was doing the thread down at the bottom. Yeah, see, I'm just like not having any luck today. I pushed it too far. I got too easy, and I should have stopped there, but cut them a little far out and then melt it. There we go. Got the little guy out there, and it's kind of falling in, but I'll go ahead and hit it with a little bit of heat. Maybe that'll melt it some. You know, at the end of the day, if it works out a little bit more, you'll see it hanging out. If it like works out through another bead, that's really kind of unlikely. You just don't want it unsightly, and there we go. That got it. So that's that one. Now on the other side I want to do the same thing. I'm going to call that one good there. Okay, I left it a little bit longer. Hopefully it didn't pull back into the bead. It did. There it is. I can see it right there. Alright, so there, it's hard to see, even for me, with a magnifying glass. But, oh, there's another one. I'm going to burn that guy too while I'm at it. There we go. So this stuff's made out of plastic, so when you melt it, it makes all the things go together. I'm using Fireline. That's what I use. I can't even find the damn thing. So, you know, if it pops up later, you can just pull the lighter out of the thing, melt it off a little more. Done. Okay, so that's that stuff. But you can see this poor guy is he's just all beat up. Look at that. You know, big ass hole right there. And look how thin this one is.
I used a different piece of leather for this very first one here, and it's just not as thick as the other leather. So I think if you get a little bit thicker than this is super thin deer leather. But don't go with super thick cow leather or something. I mean, you can, but holy crap, you're not going to get a needle through it. So we got the piece pulled off. So we're back to, this would be what a finished piece would look like of the beading, and we're going to go ahead and make the bottom for it from scratch. So first thing you need is some leather. Here's a piece of leather. It's a little bit, when I feel it, it's definitely thicker than this other one. Just a little bit. I don't know. I think this is elk leather, because it's yellow. It's more yellowish. Or I don't know. I'm not a leather guy, right? I just know that, hey, this came off a dead animal. Almost certainly. I've got this the smooth side out, but I want that to be on the outside. So I'm going to go on the fuzzy side of the leather. I'm sure there's a technical name for it. And I want to make a good solid silhouette. So I want to make a good solid cut, so I'm going to go as close to the edge as I can, like right here, and grab a good pen and trace out around it. Good enough for me. I can cut that. Alright, so now I got my piece cut. It's time to trim it down. And notice I'm not trying to get inside the line at all, right? Because you want to be just outside of that line. You know, you don't want to have it cut at an angle. You want it to be as perpendicular as possible to the side. I found that out the hard way too. Try and round it as much as you can. I'm sure people that are good at this kind of thing would do a freaking A1 job. But guess what? Sloppy guy like me, Mr. Uncoordinated, that seems to work okay. So now we got what we want to sew and what we want to sew it to. Next thing to do is to grab some string. You know, here's this Fireline 8-pound test I've been working with. I upgraded from the 6-pound. It's just a little bit heavier and it does the job great. Use clear, don't use any stain, because that's how it is. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab about 4 feet. Let's thread up. Oh my gosh, the first try. Unbelievable. So now we need to tie it onto our weave, and I'm used to this part being on the bottom, so I'm going to go in there. So you go back through 4 beads, and notice the way I'm going is I'm going just like I was going to put on some new thread for beading, I guess. You know, you can do it either way, but go back 4 beads. Can I do it in one shot? Yes, I can. So I went back 4 beads. Do a half hitch. And I'm doing a half hitch around the thread that goes to the next bead I want to go through, which in this case is that one. Alright, so then I'm going to get ready for the final tie, and this is where I'm going to adjust so I don't lose as much string. Kind of goofy stuff, but I mean, I paid for this string. I want to get the most value out of it that I can. Okay, so just barely longer than the needle. There we go. And that half hitch is on there real nice and tight. Okay, go through 2 more in the same diagonal. 1, 2. Another half hitch. Oh man, I hate it when I do that. So I pulled too hard on my half hitch, and all I ended up doing, and I didn't have a loop that I could get back through. Another thing I'll do when I'm super short on thread at the end here is I'll just poke the other guy back through like this. So I poke the back side through and pull it out like that. Alright, so now I need to really yank on this thing and make sure that it's firmed up before I cut. Make sure that it's staying on and not coming off before the cut. Alright, time to cut. Alright, it's cut. There's the little nubby. Give him a little heat. There he goes. Just got to melt him a little bit. Makes it kind of a melt knot. And that really for sure means it ain't going nowhere. Let's put our lighter on. And there it is. And we're going to use the lighter as kind of a way to work. So, there's our leather. We just put it in there. Make sure that the ends are kind of lined up. So what I'm unconsciously doing here, but you can see the lighter's not a perfect circle, right? So you need to put that in. So make sure that it fits all the way around real nice. It doesn't have to be super nice. This stuff is very forgiving. Alright, let's thread up the other end. This is where I cut out 15 minutes of film trying to freaking thread this needle. Alright, so we're threaded up and we're ready to start stitching this thing on. What you're going to do is, you can see the strings right here. Let me get that out of the way. So we've got this thing in, and what we want to do is we want to go in about 1/8 of an inch. I know it looks like a lot, but it's not. Okay? You don't want to get too close to the edge. If it ever rips through, you are super screwed. Okay? Now you don't want to go all the way out into the middle either, right? So we're going to go 1/8 of an inch in, and you just stab down through this stuff. Try and go straight through. Don't try and go through at an angle, and that's always a challenge for me because I can't do anything right. And you come out underneath, and so you can see the needle starting to poke out underneath there. Now you see where I got it coming out is in between these two outer beads, right? And we're coming out through this outer bead. We're going to go through this other bead. So it's a two-step process. Let's get all the string pulled through first. Okay. And sometimes you get a little resistance trying to get the eye of the needle pulled through the leather, and that happens. Okay. And but there it goes. Okay, so let's real calmly get the thread through. No need to try and go fast on this part. Just take it easy, man. Alright, so you can see it's coming out of the bead, coming over the top here, and then going down through the hole. Alright, now we're coming out the underside, and we're going to go through the next bead over. There it is. You see it? I just got through, and that's, so you're in through the second bead, right? Ow! God dang it. I'm always stabbing myself. I'm going to freaking get tetanus. Every time you make a stab, you want to stab in the right spot, so you know you want to go, to the left of this guy. Now, where should you go? I don't actually look so much about where I stabbed before. I'm looking at, I'm trying to go through the midpoint of this, the next row down on that bead and go in the middle as best I can, and again about 1/8 of an inch. Right, so I'm stabbing down, and I'll usually cheat over so that I can stab straight down once I got a stab to get it the rest of the way through the leather. Something like that. And you can see it's super messy at the start, right? There's nothing holding these guys together very much, so it's real loose, okay? You don't want it too loose. You want to start cinching it up right away, okay? And let the leather stretch so that you can do your work. So snug that up really good. You can see it's, oh, son of a bitch. And of course, then my freaking string gets hung up on the camera stand. I just love it. I love it. Look at all the pain and suffering I'm going through for you guys. Huh? Look at this. Let's go through our next bead. There it is. And they call it a whip stitch because you're just whipping round and round. That's it. It has to be this way. See, now that was almost a bad stab right there. What you don't want to do is do this, where you come out through the side of your leather. That's a no good. That's not perfect. That's a bad. So And I'll again line it up. There it is. Stab straight down through as best I can. And try to make it stay perpendicular. There. See, now I come out actually through the bottom. That's what I'm after. You can see if you were going to use a thick leather, you'd be in deep doo-doo at this point, because it's just going to be hell. There, we got 3 stitches done. And you know, snug it up every time, and you should start to see, you see this little bunching that's happening here. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's the thing. And that's from you tightening this thing out. So you should start seeing this bunching stuff where the leather's getting pushed around. Just don't go super tight, snap your string, or do something like that. So we've come around quite a ways, and you can see how it's going, and you get this little like waffle, I don't know, these little folds here that where the leather's wrapping around each bead like that. That's how this turns out. But you start stabbing through, and when you feel you're hitting the plastic, you kind of gouge over to the side like this. Make sure you're coming out through the bottom. There you pull through. Stab myself a few times in the fingers. It's always important that you bleed on your work. That way people know you were serious about this. So snug it up. Yank through. Yeah, if you're not drawing any blood, you're not doing this right. This is our last stitch. So yeah, equidistant between the two. But if you did this right, equidistant between the two, you should see it's coming right out in the middle of the bead there. Pull through. That way. Snug it up. Alright, and we're coming, and here we are. It's our last stitch. We're coming through the bead we first came out of, just like we would if we were doing a row of peyote. Your next row you're going to step up, right? That's where it would do, and that's where we finished through the same bead we started coming out of. Alright, and we do want to go through that bead. Now this is the place where you check your work, because once you go past this point there ain't no coming back. Alright, and you can see I've got, I don't know, you know, somebody that's really good at leather and stuff like that might be able to help you out, but I like this look. And you can soak it and stretch it out some and do whatever, but that's it. Almost. Now we got to tie off. Well, when you go to tie off, pull your lighter out. And just like before, we're at this top bead. We're going to go weave back through our work. I'm going to drop down 4 beads or so. You know, you could go 3. Don't go 2. The thing is you need to build up some friction. Why do you go so far back in? Because you want to build up friction between your string and the other strings. The knots help, but the friction helps too. And if you wanted to be super hardcore, I suppose you could just go back around and around and not tie it off at all, or some kind of weird thing like that. But I'm going to go through one more bead. There we go. So now it's time to do a half hitch tie off. Again, I'm going to go through this darker orange bead right here, so I'm going to pick that string out and do a half hitch around it. Good. Go through a couple more beads. And I got a lot of excess string left over. I'm such a freaking... That's horrible. String's expensive. There it is. Alright. And that is that. Let's go ahead and cut and melt. There's the cut. You can see the little dingus sticking out right there. Melted. That's a melt knot. You can see you just hit it for a second, and that is that. Wow, look at that. Is that super or what? Done. And guess what? See how that's stretching? It's not stretching anymore. And you can barely see the black plastic there just above the bead line. Pick a different lighter cover real quick. So you can see a little bit of the plastic above the beads. That's exactly the way, that's like awesome right there. Now as far as stretching goes, I have soaked these like overnight in water and then stretched them some, and you get some results that way, but nothing like what we saw before with this thing just stretching like crazy. So I've seen these lighter bottoms stretch some, but this is an extreme case right here where it stretched so much the leather actually separated and the edge of the lighter cut through the leather. So I'm kind of hard on stuff anyway though, so that's part of it.
I just breathed new life into my lighter. Brand new leather bottom using a whip stitch. Pretty straightforward. You can see you could do all kinds of stuff, and I'm just not one of these folks that's in that. I kind of like it simple. I guess eventually the leather will stretch out and you have to replace it, but it just depends on how often you use the lighter and how mean you are to it and what conditions it's in. I carry this thing around in my pocket and it falls on the ground and it gets wet and whatever, and I paid the price. That leather bottom, the first one, made it about 8-9 months. And we'll see how far this one gets me. So have a good one. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Take care.